last but definitely not least, we have Laura, who is, I'm sorry, I should come accompany you on the stage, but whatever. Laura is ESG coordinator at the CSSF. She's a face that many of you know, but not everybody. She's been at the CSSF now for 3-4 years, something like
10
that.
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
But ESG
As the ESG coordinator since 2022.
2022. Okay, so she focused absolutely 100% on that. She even came to one of my training courses, and I saw her in the room, and I was like, oh my God, she should be the one standing in front of the people teaching rather than me. So I felt a little bit uncomfortable or unconfident.
It was great. It was really great.
But Laura, can I ask you to share some of the exciting news from CSSF, some special messages for us, please? Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. I'm really honored to be tasked with the closing speech of the Sustainable Investment Week. I don't think it's such an easy task, though, because it's a very dense subject matter, and we've heard a lot of very good insights from very qualified speakers, and we heard a lot about all the challenges that still need to be addressed, about the current state and also the future of sustainable finance. So I have notes. I'll try to keep it short because I know that it's been dense and probably everybody's waiting for a well-deserved drink. The good news is I agree with a lot of what has been said, including with last-minute guests. So over the past 5 years, the sustainable finance agenda has transformed the financial landscape. That's undoubtable now. Yet I think we clearly heard today that it has come with a lot of complexity, and it's often been very difficult to navigate for institutions, for supervisors, and for investors alike. What do we qualify as a sustainable activity? What defines sustainable investments? How can investors be confident that what is presented as green is generally aligned with sustainability objective? As we saw in these 2 days, these are not abstract questions, and they are central to building trust. The first wave of ESG regulation, as we saw, I think, from the Aaron presentation earlier, has been difficult to understand and to come to fruition. It's been difficult also to implement for both professional and investors. Sometimes came with unclear and conflicting definitions, with vast amounts of regulation issued in record time. And if you add to that the current context, with ESG becoming increasingly politicized and the need to maintain the EU's competitiveness on the global stage, then the picture becomes even more complex. However, even where ESG has become increasingly divisive, my message today is clear. Regardless of changing political trends, our efforts should be maintained until a coherent, common framework that bridges corporate reporting, product design, and investor understanding is established. Now, all the speakers that you have heard before me, and I too, are all well placed to know that is something that is easier said than done. I think everyone by now is aware that one of the main challenges will be striking the correct balance between alleviating regulatory overload and also retaining the benefits of sustainability reporting. What I've often heard recently, and probably everyone in the room too, is the concerns around the EU's competitiveness and the need for simplification and burden reduction being presented in opposition to the implementation of the ESG framework, Personally, on that matter, I believe that there is a more pertinent perspective where you can have both competitiveness and the need to better take into account sustainability features in finance as key pillars of the future ESG framework to ensure that the framework remains effective and proportionate. So if you remember, and that was also evidenced in the Arendt presentation earlier, since the advent of the first ESG regulatory package, we at the CSSF, alongside with other EU regulators and other EU institutions, and notably via the ESAs, we have advocated for making the ESG framework more workable, which ultimately led to the review of the SFDR, which is expected to, the first proposal is actually expected to come out soon. And for us, this need has preceded the current political drive on competitiveness and simplification. It's not about dismantling what has been already built, but about how to make it work better, which is also the objective of the simplification drive. So both should correspond with each other and work sort of hand in hand. And hopefully the European Commission will be seeking feedback on the effectiveness and the impact of the changes that it intends to propose. In any case, at the CSSF, we are appreciative of any effort that support a simpler, more consistent and more proportionate framework for market participants, and also better eligibility for retail investors. Of course, and I think that's also really important as a key takeaway, these efforts cannot only stem from regulatory requirements. And I think I preach to people who are already convinced of this because you're all attending here, but a proactive approach from all stakeholders is still absolutely crucial to answer the quick question, which is, how can we make sustainable finance framework both credible and understandable for all market participants? We heard from LuxFlag's experience yesterday, especially how labels can give color to sustainability commitments. That discussion was a good reminder that credible labels should be more than symbols or virtue signaling, and they are practical tools helping investors and professionals navigate a complex ESG landscape. As we look ahead, it is important to take those experiences into perspective and ensure that investors benefit from a simplified, practical, and easy-to-access ESG toolkit. The objective should be to expand and refine this toolkit so that sustainable investment choices become more transparent, comparable, and meaningful for all market participants. Earlier today, we also heard the conversation on ESG data and performance requirements, which was a very relevant discussion, which reminded us that data quality and transparency are central to inform investment decisions and to the appropriate use of product labels. Without reliable data, even the best designed toolkit cannot function effectively. So data reliability, comparability, investor usability, they all remain central to shaping the future regime. At the same time, we see that the ongoing regulatory changes, notably under the Omnibus package, may create practical challenges in the availability of ESG information. And actually on that, I don't know if any of you were also on LinkedIn this afternoon, but the European Parliament just rejected the position of its legal committee, meaning that they have not agreed on a position on the omnibus threshold yet, and these will not move to trilogue and will be reopened for discussion in November. So there is all these challenges, all those regulatory evolution that we've heard about also during the different panels. Simplification for us should not mean dilution. We at the CSSF, and in that sense, I agree with the previous speaker, we continue to emphasize the importance of ESG risk integration and robust governance. In fact, ESG considerations, they're not an ethical add-on, they're not woke, they are essential drivers of long-term financial strategies and resilience. As the regulator, our role in that matter is twofold. On the one hand, we monitor the regulatory developments. We actively contribute to the ongoing review of the framework, while also engaging with stakeholders, such as yourselves, to ensure that we achieve a sustainable finance framework that is actually fit for purpose. So that's one part. And then our other role is to ensure that sustainability risks are properly managed and sustainability consideration properly integrated in markets participants' governance. So while the regulatory framework continues to evolve, the CSSF priorities in the area of sustainable finance are grounded in practical market reality. And we've heard that this reality are not always easy to navigate. And we try to maintain a risk-based approach to supervision to take those realities into account rather than a one-size-fits-all. Much of this work is invisible to the public. I mean, there've been some that already has been highlighted previously, so my work's done. But I'll quickly dive in 3 key areas of our action where this risk-based approach is highlighted. There's only 3 points. First is ensuring transparency and consistency in sustainability disclosure. I mean, I've previously said that transparency is at the heart of investor trust. Disclosure expectations remain high, and there's still a lot of increased scrutiny, notably in the asset management space. Our supervision focuses on compliance with the SFDR and the ESMA fund name guidelines, because they're both designed to enhance clarity and also to prevent greenwashing. Last month, we published a feedback report on the ESMA CSA on sustainability risk and disclosures by investment fund manager. And we found that some investment fund managers demonstrated a lack of comprehensive disclosure regarding notably remuneration policy and the consideration of PIAs on investment decisions. Disclosures often lack clarity on the identification and prioritization of PIAs, engagement policies, and reference to international standards. Looking ahead, the challenge will be to maintain a robust disclosure standard while simplifying requirements and ensuring that information remains meaningful and accessible to investors. In the context of the changing and evolving regulatory landscape, this is not an easy task to do. We've also been active on the issuer side, so CSRD, by continuing to review the CSRD sustainability statements that were published under CSRD. However, since the CSRD is not yet transposed in Luxembourg, and there's been the Stop the Clock directive in the meantime, we had to adapt, and we now focus on, when we do those reviews, we now focus on having bilateral exchanges with issuers concerned. Thus maintaining this risk-based and not one-size-fits-all approach. The second area I want to cite and that we're active in is ensuring that sustainability risks are effectively integrated into investment decision-making and risk management. Whether physical, transition-related, or even social, ESG risks must be treated as financial risks and embedded across internal processes from investment selection to remuneration and risk management policies, or the management of conflict of interest. Proper management of sustainability risks will continue to be a core element of our approach. Close attention will be paid to how SFDR compliance is reflected in governance. So not just in disclosures, but in actual decision making. In our feedback report on the ESMA CSA that I mentioned earlier, we found that the overall awareness and governance framework have improved, but there is still room for progress. Many asset managers have integrated sustainability risks at policy level, but the translation of these policies into the day-to-day investment decisions and risk monitoring often remains insufficiently evidenced. So, for instance, some firms lack a clear link between their sustainability risk assessments and their portfolio constructions or the oversight process, or they lack clear quantitative metrics or stress testing for ESG factors that are not systematically applied. The integration of sustainability risks into risk management could also be strengthened through clearer metrics, escalation procedures, and more consistent reporting to senior management. Proper reporting channel to senior management and board on sustainability risks varies widely in quality and depth. And some sustainability risk policy remain too high level and vague. As I was saying earlier, disclosure on remuneration policies or PII indicators are often too generic or incomplete. Finally, the third area of action that I want to highlight is ensuring that sustainability preference under MiFID II are properly assessed and reflected in product offered to clients. As I mentioned earlier, and I think it is one of the key takeaways also of the panels that we've heard earlier today, a key element for the framework to be effective is to improve how sustainability preferences are integrated into suitability assessment, meaning that if there is a retail investor expressing some kind of sustainability preference, they should be taken into account. There was a very recent study that was done by BaFin, and they surveyed some retail investors, and it showed that almost all of those consumers expect transparent sustainability information on financial products. 60% want the provider to clearly highlight relevant sustainability information before the contract is concluded. However, there was another KPMG survey conducted in 2024 that found that on average, only 5% of clients express a preference for sustainability during suitability assessments. So here, why is there such a discrepancy? The main issue is that the definition of sustainability preference is overly complex, which makes it difficult for firms to implement the rules and difficult for retail investors to understand the questions that are asked by firms when they do the suitability assessment. This was evident. We conducted another CSA, which was focused specifically on the integration of sustainability in firms' suitability assessment. And we conducted often on-site inspection on that specific aspect, and it was evident there that the rules were hard, difficult to implement still, with still a lot of unclarity. And we believe that this topic is going to be also crucial in the context of the SFDR review, because greater alignment between product disclosure and client-facing preference is needed. Building on the experience of existing product labels could help, actually, in that respect, to provide investors and advisors with clearer, more intuitive tools to match sustainability preference with products. Now, all these aspects that I've cited, sorry if I was being a bit long, but all these aspects are instrumental in combating greenwashing, which is why they're all relevant and important. Maintaining vigilance in the fight against greenwashing should remain a central concern for all stakeholders, as it remains one of the greatest threats to investor trust and the credibility of genuinely sustainable investments. The problem with greenwashing, I'll just diverge from my notes for a bit, but the problem with greenwashing is it actually feeds those who call ESG a hoax. So it is our responsibility, if we want ESG to be credible, all of us, to integrate ESG sufficiently properly that it gives credibility to the whole framework. And again, I want to stress that in that respect, the regulation alone cannot achieve the objectives if sustainability considerations are not properly integrated, or if investors do not understand the products available to them. And beyond this work of supervisory and regulatory that I've just tried to summarize, we are therefore very supportive and appreciative of initiatives such as the one we are all attending today, which highlight the importance of financial literacy, investor education. We also take our part in financial education initiatives in general and sustainable finance in particular. With the rollout, last year we rolled out an awareness campaign on greenwashing. Now, I will try to conclude. I'm sure you're all eager to have a drink at this stage. I think all the insights that we have heard so far show that the future of sustainable finance depends on our ability to connect regulation, market practice, and investor understanding. The objective is to transform ESG from compliance challenge into a coherent and empowering framework for decision-making, with information made easily accessible and understandable to investors. Achieving this requires addressing the operational difficulties and complexities that market participants face on a daily basis. But it also requires persistence and direction. Despite the challenge, ESG in finance should remain a core strategic element, regardless of political trends. In the current context, where ESG is becoming increasingly divisive, it is important that we do not lose the sight of the long-term objectives of the EU Sustainable Finance Agenda. The evolution of the ESG framework and the way in which we rely on labels, data, and disclosures will be crucial in achieving those objectives. The Omnibus package, the SFDR review, the evolution of labels, and the strengthening of the ESG toolkit are not endpoints, but part of a broader reflection where we recognize ESG as a fundamental tool for creating more resilient, fair, and sustainable economic systems. So, as we close this year's Sustainable Investment Week, I would like to thank the entire LuxFlag team for their engagement, and of course, all the speakers and panelists for their insight, and also all of you that will help achieve the framework and ESG in finance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Laura. Very good guidance on some of the priorities that CSSF has for us. So I guess Isabel is going to give a few closing remarks, and then we can, after that, move to the cocktail. So Isabel, huh?
Thank you, Jane. So I know we come at the end of two intense days, so 2 intense afternoons. So in a way to wrap up with this second afternoon of the 7th edition of the LuxFlag Sustainable Investment Week, I would like to thank you all really for your active participation and engagement, because I think it was really inspiring afternoons. So today's presentation and discussions have also once again been truly enriching. We heard from investing in the energy transition, balancing ambition and regulation, leveraging data, technology, innovation to drive ESG performance, and adapting as well from PRI to a changing and turmoil world, with a lot of new projects for 2026, where we will be pleased as well to participate. We also had the pleasure of seeing Luxembourg's space key actors and green fintech innovators in action, I would say, showcasing as well the creativity and dynamism of our local ecosystem. I think we have all to be proud of that. Each of these sessions have offered valuable perspectives on how we can collectively accelerate the transition toward a more sustainable and resilient financial system. This is also what our regulator is also all encouraging us. So I think we have a chance as well in Luxembourg, but the regulator is also somehow on our side. So I really think that we are all going to the same direction. We can make it happen. So all of this insight shares, of course, over these 2 days will continue. I'm sure to inspire meaningful action and collaborations in your own organizations. Before we see everyone is waiting for the glass to share, but I would like to take this opportunity as well to take a moment to express my gratitude and the gratitude, of course, of LuxLac to all who made this LSIW 25 possible. So our speakers and moderators for sharing their insights and experience, our innovation sponsor list for supporting the tools and systems that bring new ideas and solutions to a wider audience. And our partners in media, as well AT Finance, who traveled from Paris to be here also over these 2 afternoons. And of course, the LuxLac team. I see some of you, Rebecca, Sweetie, Drishant, Leo is hiding. I don't know if maybe I may have missed someone, but at least, I mean, Viola, of course, but you come to the end. So. And the students, Olivia is only here today, and there is also the volunteers from the University of Luxembourg that, thanks to Jen, who is one of the main lecturer for the Sustainable Finance Tract. Looks like he's also participating to the Master in Wealth Management with, of course, my colleagues. And we really, this is also something we want to, train and help the students, the future generation is very important. Otherwise, we will not never make it. Sorry, but after 25 years, at least these 2 afternoons are always refreshing for me, if I can share something more personal, because, apart from the engagement with all the happening, it's really hard to keep motivated and engaged. So I would say, at least to see so many people, as well someone representing the Luxembourg Impact Investing Association that was created as part of the Master in Wealth Management, completely unexpected, I would say, for potential future private bankers. But so there is hope. This is the main message, I would say. And last but not least, of course, a big thanks to our Master of Ceremony, Jen, that you so gracefully manage and make this afternoon dynamic and interesting. So I would say let's appreciate as well as a gesture of our appreciation, Jen. It's a nice bouquet. With almost your favorite colors, if I can say. So thank you all once again for this great edition. So stay tuned for next year and also for our 20th anniversary that we will right after. I see Viola is still tired, but I'm sure we will. Yeah, you will recover, and I will start working on the 8th edition, of course, and on the anniversary as well. So thank you so much, and please enjoy a glass of, And now we have also special thanks as well to our colleague who is doing an amazing job. So Viola, I know you as a communication marketing officer, you're always hiding behind the scenes, but you are the one instrumental for this event. Huh? So thank you so much. Thank you all. And let's enjoy a glass.